Please define exactly what canceled priest means. Confessions, public mass, baptisms, and marriages. How it affects those, I guess.
Well, it affects it because when you have so many priests sidelined that could be ministering, that's so many confessions not being heard, so many people not being anointed. It actually kind of goes with this whole language thing. Canceled works very well in the last few years in American English. It doesn't work so well in French or Italian or German. And I mentioned this in my talk. We decided on the word canceled because of, and I think the microphone just went out, but fortunately I can speak for everybody to hear me in the room. We went with canceled because of the cancel culture. And a good friend of mine, some of you might know him, Christopher Check, who's the president of Catholic Answers. We were having a drink last weekend in Kansas City.
Good Catholics having a drink.
And he told me, he says, well, Father, I don't like it when you use language of the left. And I said, I don't remember the left using the word canceled. In fact, it seemed like it was commentary from the right about people being canceled for saying something that's true or for saying something that everybody should be agree with, that, you know, Father Baldsley's a he. You are, by the way. You know, I mean, and people, their lives get ruined. And so when we talk about cancel culture and people's lives being ruined, we thought, what a better term to use than canceled in the church? Because the cancel culture in the church has been going on a lot longer than it has been in America. And I can tell you this right now, when a priest gets canceled, his life is ruined. We are public figures. We are public persons. We're not Carthusians. There are days I wish I was. All right? And to be honest with you, if it was up to me what my vocation would be, I would be a Carthusian. That's not what God has called us to do. And what people have to realize is that when these, Father rightly says, monsters and minors who are living high on the hog, Cardinal Wuerl, Cardinal Supich, and all of their mansions, and we're there, I was working at Olive Garden. Right? Father is a CPA, a lawyer, all of that. He could do that, you know, and it's very hard for me to put my hand out and say, I need help. One, because I'm a man, and men don't like doing that. We like to go out and work for our own living. Right? So when we say canceled, we're saying because there's so many people, microphone's back, we're saying that so many people are being canceled in society. We're trying to show that in the church, when a priest is canceled, his life is ruined, like all of these people on social media. Does that make sense?
Yes. Do you want to add something to that, Father?
This may not be the perfect analogy, but I hope it helps some of you. It certainly has helped me. I'll say again, because Father Rodriguez always says this, we do not understand the gravity of the crisis we are in right now. And a lot of that is because of this diabolical disorientation that has descended upon us.
Good.
And I think this question explains it, because if we were living in the time of the Cristeros, or the mass rocks in Ireland, or the English priests that were being hunted down by Elizabeth I, or the Soviet gulags, or any of those places that are being persecuted, none of us would be asking these questions about, well, what's up with the priest who came to our house not dressed like a priest, and he was pretending to be a newspaper boy, and he had mass here, and he didn't have his, clerical authority. We would be so grateful for that priest showing up. And we're not going to be worried. I mean, jurisdiction and all the authority structures are extremely important in the church. But you always have to ask yourself, why is it there? It's to keep the right order. It's so that you don't have a charlatan dressing up as a priest, pretending he's a priest, and going off renegade and doing terrible things that are against Christ's church. But what happens when those who are giving the jurisdiction are the renegades going off, doing crazy things to Christ's church? This is the grave crisis that we're not getting. And so the spiritual persecution we're feeling now is worse. I was trying to make this point. The crisis is worse than what the Cristeros went through. We mentioned little Ignacio earlier and how he was tortured. Terrible. But that's happening to people right now when the COVID comes and you put the mask on and you shut down the church. Right? It's a worse crisis we're in right now. But it's a spiritual one. And so we're not seeing it. And that's why you need to see like the typology that Father Malzi is trying to pull out of the Old Testament for us, because then our eyes are open at another level. And when you're at that other level and you start getting aware of the diabolical disorientation, you're just so grateful that there are some courageous priests who are still going to come and give you the sacraments. Because I'm telling you right now, people, it's going to get worse. We really need to stop getting up on the hang-up of like, I mean, again, it's important, but there's a reason. And that reason's falling apart. Not because of what you've done, and not because of what I've done, and not because of what these priests have done. It's falling apart because those who had the authority from God, like the Judah, they abandoned their authority, as we said. They're acting, hesitating. And so, again, the faith comes first. Always hold fast to the faith. Get the sacraments as you can. You know, but there's an order in God, God's right order, which has been completely subverted. And so when people ask this question, I tend to think that they haven't gotten the order right. And they don't know how grave, absolutely grave the crisis is. And I think God's going to let it get worse so that more people open their eyes. And we start figuring it out. And we start living the message of Fatima.
3 more quick little points. There's, he's talking about getting worse. There's this, somebody once said to me, "Don't worry, Father, it's going to get worse before it gets worse." So, and that is spot on. Secondly, I give you a little history lesson today about what was going on in our country. And remember Archbishop Fulton J. Sheen. And he said, forget about the priests and the bishops. They're gone. They're gone. It's going to be up to you, right? So when you see the monsters and miters doing what they do, realize that Fulton Sheen saw it 7 years ago. That's why they were interfering with his canonization now, because he spoke the truth. And then thirdly, this is just a practical thing. Rembert Weakland, when he was Archbishop in Milwaukee, spent pretty near $500,000 paying his male lover to keep silent for 10 years. And then after the money ran out, he spoke up, and that was the end of Rembert Weakland's. He still kept his faculties to the end, by the way. Still was collecting money, still running around pretending he's an archbishop.
Here's Grinder.
Yeah, Monsignor Grinder. Wow. Who now has a parish 12 miles down from mine. Here's the thing. These days, it can cost upwards of $400,000 to $500,000 to get a young man from the start of seminary to the end to ordain him. Who pays for that? You. So when a priest gets canceled, that bishop has just canceled pretty near $500,000 of your donations. How does it make you feel when he just piddles it away? When it calls for it, I'll use polite language. He just piddles it away.
Piddles it away.
I don't know. Piddle is polite.
Piddles and diddles.
Well, I can think of other words. I played hockey for 15 years. So the point is, look at the money. And that's just small potatoes. We have 5 billion reasons and counting why these monsters and miters are monsters and need to go. The entire lot of them, except for maybe a handful I can count on one hand, should resign. They are false shepherds and they're misleading the church. And here's how you know. There's about 290 active bishops in the United States. When Coeur d'Alene finally said, "Oh, you just can't receive Holy Communion in my diocese," he should have excommunicated her so she couldn't waltz down the street of Wilton Gregory and get Holy Communion in Washington, D.C., and then go over to Rome where Bergoglio let it happen too. Here's the thing. When Coeur d'Alene said that, though, finally, after 35 years of her promoting the murder of babies, only 17 other bishops stood by him and spoke up for him. That meant there was approximately 272 in this country, including Wilton Gregory, including Blaise Supich, including Sean O'Malley, including, who's the guy in New York? Dolan.
Dolan, no, he's a beauty.
And then his buddy down, his newest cardinal, McElroy. They didn't say anything. It was 96% of the Sanhedrin were evil in Jesus' day. It's the same percentage today. Figure it out. And they're wasting your money.